Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1897B, and today's date is June 19th, 2019, and the title of the episode is, Did You Catch What Trump Did at the Rally? The People Now Know. Now, before I get started, I wanted to talk about VPNs. The Department of Homeland Security has officially come out and said foreign-based VPNs can pose a security risk to the United States government. Virtual Shield is located in the United States, which respects user data laws but does not log its users' browser's history. This month, Virtual Shield is offering a Father's Day celebration special of 20% off all VPN plans and all premium add-ons. Sign up for a free 30-day trial by clicking the link below. Let's get into the economic collapse, political, and geopolitical news. Now, as we watch the deep state actors, they are pushing an agenda that is going nowhere. They are sticking to the Russian collusion obstruction story, and they're continually pushing the idea that Mueller holds the answers and they need to impeach Trump. This is a complete dead end for them. But like we said before, they're panicking. They can't deviate from the Russian story. If they deviate from the Russian story and they say there's no Russian hacking, there's no Russian anything, everything else falls apart. And this is why they've been pushing the idea that Mueller holds the key, Mueller must testify, Mueller. But this is a complete dead end. And Trump was at a rally in Orlando yesterday, and he basically came out and told the people exactly what is happening, and he gave very important information on what they have, and we'll be getting into that in just a moment. But talking about Mueller and the Russian story, we have Adam Schiff out there and Representative Jim Himes, and they're both out there saying that Mueller is going to testify. Well, doesn't matter how, he will testify, even if we have to subpoena him. And they've been saying this for a very long time. Nadler's out there saying this. And they keep saying time is running out. Well, if time is running out, then go ahead and just subpoena Mueller. Why don't you just do this? Well, I believe they won't do this. And if they do, it would be a shock to everyone if they actually get Mueller in to testify. And if they do have him testify, they're going to try to do it behind closed doors, or they're going to try to do it without the Republicans, and they're going to try to use their staff lawyers to ask Mueller the right questions. Think about why they really don't want to have Mueller up there and why this is a propaganda stunt. If they do have Mueller testify, they need to do it in public and not behind closed doors. If they do it in private, there goes their argument of transparency and being open with the public. They have been arguing about this, that we need the full report. We need all the evidence. We have to be open with the public. It has to be completely transparent. So if they go into the back room and have this discussion with Mueller, well, there goes that whole entire story that they were pushing. If Mueller testifies in front of Congress, well, there's a problem there. They got Jordan, Meadows, Gates, Collins. They'll be asking the tough questions. And this will not go along with their narrative. If they decide to have their staff lawyers question Mueller, and that's it, and of course this is going to be designed to ask very specific questions, and none of the questions that anyone else would ask, it will be seen as a setup, and it will not look favorably on the Dems, and it will not work. This is why I do believe that Mueller most likely will not testify at all in front of Congress, in front of the public. Now, they might try to do it behind closed doors, but for the reasons we just mentioned, this is going to be a major, major problem. And if time is running out, just subpoena him already. Do it. Let's see what he really has to say. And let's ask the real questions. I think they're a little nervous and afraid to ask the real questions. Now, we understand that Roger Stone, he is going after the CrowdStrike reports. And again, we know the FBI, they really didn't see any of this. And I don't believe CrowdStrike, I don't believe they have them. I don't believe he's going to get the unredacted reports from CrowdStrike at all. I think they're going to try to push this off to make sure that he doesn't get anything because they don't have anything. And this is going to be a major, major problem for the deep state. Why? Because this was the whole basis of Russia hacking the DNC and the DCCC. And this is going to be a major problem. And this will expose Clinton, Obama, and the rest. Their move on Roger Stone was a really stupid move on their part because Discovery allows Stone to go after all this information. And now they're going to be in trouble. And of course, they made this move thinking that Mueller was going to issue the report showing Russian collusion obstruction, and they wouldn't have to worry about that. But guess what? Now they're worrying. How do we know they're worrying? Well, we're getting word that Obama is panicking. How do we know this? Well, there was a Newsweek article that came out. And it says, Barack Obama is very concerned about country, will get involved in 2020 campaign, and this is coming from a former advisor. So a senior advisor to Obama has said that the president is deeply concerned about the direction of the U.S. and that the two-term president plans to be involved. Yeah, because he's worried, he's panicking that if Trump stays in office and continues, he will have full power over the deep state and everything that they've done, which means he will push out the D-class, the OIG, and the rest. Now, it's not him specifically. It's going to be Barr because Barr is in charge. And actually, this was a very, very smart move on Trump's part because Trump is not declassifying it. Barr is declassifying it. And guess what? It won't show that Trump is doing it for political reasons. Barr is handling the investigation, so it's separate and apart from Trump. Now, of course, they're going to try to say, oh, he's pushing this for political reasons, but when Barr comes out with the facts, the truth, and it shows that these people did treasonous, illegal, criminal things, well, their whole entire story completely falls apart. And Trump, by the way, he's been telling the story about what has happened through his tweets. Now, I went through some of his tweets here, and I can't read all of them because we'd be here for days, but I took out some of the important ones, and this is going back to July 25th, 2017. And I do believe he's been doing this since he came into his presidency to tell the story of what really has been happening here and allowing the mainstream media to pick it up and argue about it, but the information is still getting out there. So his tweet on July 25th, 2017 said, Ukrainian efforts to sabotage Trump campaign quietly working to boost Clinton. So where is the investigation, AG? This is August 19, 2018. No collusion and no obstruction except by crooked Hillary and the Democrats, all of the resignations and corruption, yet heavily conflicted. Bob Mueller refuses to even look in that direction. What about the Brennan, the Comey, McCabe, Strzok, lies to Congress, or Crooked's emails? This is January 12, 2019. Lion James Comey, Andrew McCabe, Peter S., and his lover, Agent Lisa Page, and more, all disgraced and or fired and caught in the act. These are just some of the losers that tried to do a number on your president. Part of the witch hunt. Remember the insurance policy. This is it. March 21st, 2019. John Solomon. As Russia collusion fades, Ukrainian plot to help Clinton emerges. March 28th, 2019. Congressman Adam Schiff, who spent 2 years knowingly and unlawfully lying and leaking, should be forced to resign from Congress. May 17th, 2019. My campaign for president was conclusively spied on. Nothing like this has ever happened in American politics. A really bad situation. Treason means long jail sentences, and this was treason. May 30th, 2019. Russia, Russia, Russia. That's all you heard at the beginning of this witch hunt hoax. And now Russia has disappeared because I had nothing to do with Russia helping me to get elected. It was a crime that didn't exist. So now the Dems and their partner, the fake news media, say he fought back against this phony crime that didn't exist. This horrendous false accusation, and he shouldn't fight back. He should just sit back and take it. Could this be obstruction? No, Mueller didn't find obstruction either. Presidential harassment. June 9th, 2019. For 2 years, all the Democrats talked about was the Mueller report because they knew that it was loaded up with 13 angry Democrat Trump haters. Later increased to 18, but despite the bias, when the report came out, the findings were no collusion and the facts that led to no obstruction. The Dems were devastated. After all this time and money spent $40 million, the Mueller report was a disaster for them. But they want a redo or a do-over. They are even bringing in at CNN sleazebag attorney John Dean. Sorry, no do-overs. Go back to work. June 11, 2019. Jerry Nadler's Trump bashing show is a bust. Headline, New York Post. The greatest witch hunt of all time continues. All crimes were by the other side, but the committee refuses to even take a look. Deleting 33 emails is the real obstruction, and much more. June 18, 2019. Wow. The State Department said it has identified 30 security incidents involving current or former employees and their handling of crooked Hillary Clinton's emails. This is really a big deal. Never admitted before. Highly classified material. Will the Dems investigate this? And as you can see, just from these couple of tweets here, he is creating the story, naming all the players so everyone knows what has been going on. And believe me, there's many, many, many more tweets than this, but this is just a little subset of everything that he's been talking about. And we know that the deep state, they need to get Trump out of the picture as soon as possible. But it's not going to work. All their tactics, everything that they've been trying, it's been failing because they don't have anything. I mean, look what happened here. Nadler subpoenaed former White House comms director Hope Hicks, and she is being questioned behind closed doors. Now, she came to the Capitol, and she is going to testify, or she did testify, in front of the House Judiciary Committee. And Trump's lawyer said, listen, we're invoking executive privilege, and she will not answer any of the questions. Now, Nadler went down all the questions, and she didn't answer any of them. And he's saying that this is absurd. The question is, what is executive privilege? Executive privilege has been asserted frequently by presidents, even though it's not written into the Constitution. The National Constitution Center points to this definition by George Mason University professor Mark Roselle. Executive privilege is the right of the president and high-level executive branch officers to withhold information from Congress, the courts, and ultimately the public. Roselle wrote that the privilege can be asserted for two reasons: for national security needs and for protecting the privacy of White House deliberations when it is in the public's best interest to do so. Now, what's very interesting is that they've always used executive privilege in the past with Obama, Clinton, and the rest. Now that it's being used on them, their own tactics, they don't like it. And there's no reason to call Hope Hicks in. What are they looking for? There's no crime. There's no obstruction. There's no collusion. They're just calling people in just to call people in and to subpoena people. There's nothing there. They're trying to create something. Why? Because they didn't get what they wanted from Mueller. Now, Trump tweeted out the following. The Dems are very unhappy with the Mueller report. So after almost 3 years, they want a redo or a do-over. This is extreme presidential harassment. They gave crooked Hillary's people complete immunity. Yet now they bring back Hope Hicks? Why aren't the Dems looking at the 33,000 emails that Hillary and her lawyer deleted and acid washed after getting a subpoena from Congress? That is real obstruction that the Dems want no part of because their hearings are rigged and a disgrace to our country. Now, think about Trump's last tweet that we just read about the 33,000 emails and how they were acid washed. Now, during the rally, Trump said the same thing. Now, Dirty Truth captured this, But he said something else that was very, very interesting. Take a listen to what he said.
33,000 emails deleted. Think of it. I keep mentioning, there was a lot of corruption on the other side. But, the simplest thing, they get a subpoena from the United States Congress, and they decide that they're not going to give it. So, Lindsey Graham, they delete and they acid wash, which is very expensive. Nobody does it. They acid wash those emails, never to be seen again, but we may find them somewhere deep in the State Department. We may. But can you imagine if I got a subpoena? Think of this. If I got a subpoena for emails, if I deleted one email like a love note to Melania, it's the electric chair for Trump. 33,000 emails. But let's see what happens. We now have a great attorney general. Let's see what happens.
Did you catch what he said? He said 33,000 emails deleted and acid wash, but we may find them deep in the State Department. We've got a good attorney general now. We'll have to see what happens. He's letting the people know they have it all. It has already been found, and they have every single email. They have everything that the deep state was trying to hide. He just let the people know that, don't worry, we have it all. Remember, timing is everything. Now, George Papadopoulos, he tweeted out that all agencies are cooperating with Barr except the FBI. The question we need to ask is why? But first, let's read George Papadopoulos' tweet. Congressman Devin Nunes, all agencies are cooperating with information about Joseph Mifsud except the FBI. Fascinating that the FBI would not want to dislocate to Congress and bar all of Mifsud's connections to the Russians, the guy at the epicenter of the witch hunt. Well, we need to take a step back here, first of all. Remember, we discussed this before. Wray is not giving the information to Devin Nunes or anyone else because Adam Schiff, he's the chairman, he would just leak all of it out. Secondly, if there are investigations going on, which we know there are, there would be grand juries because they have to present this to the grand juries. They're giving the evidence to the grand juries, and all of this is being done in private because if there's no case, well, they just take this and no one knows that it really happened. But if there is a case, then they're going to use all this information. So the first question we have to ask ourselves is, what is a grand jury? In the United States, a grand jury consists of 16 to 23 people. Grand juries convene for a period of 1 month up to 1 year. The grand jury proceedings are held in private. The suspected criminal actor is usually not present at the proceedings because why? They're getting all the information. They're reviewing it to see if they actually have a case against the individual. The individual doesn't know that this is going on. This is why Bill Barr couldn't unredact the grand jury information. It's held private because if there's nothing there and they can't make a case, then nothing's done. And this information is not put out to the public. Let me continue. The grand jury acts as an investigative body acting independently of either prosecuting attorney or judge. Criminal prosecutors present the case to the grand jury. The prosecutors attempt to establish probable cause to believe that a criminal offense has been committed. The grand jury may request the court compel further evidence, including witness testimony and subpoenas of documents. The grand jury is generally free to pursue its investigations unhindered by external influence or supervision. The grand jury assesses whether there is adequate basis for bringing a criminal charge against the subject. The grand jury is kind of a buffer or referee between the government and the people. So if the FBI is investigating these crimes for the grand jury and they're presenting this evidence, can the FBI then take this and give it to Congress? No, because they're already doing it with the grand jury. And this is one of the reasons why I do believe the FBI is not handing over certain information. Plus, Adam Schiff would just leak it. Now, very interestingly, Mark Meadows was out there, and he tweeted out what we're all thinking, and he said the following: "Let's declassify the documents and find out once and for all what everyone knew and when they knew it about FISA targeting and the collusion hoax. Comey, Clapper, McCabe, Mueller, President Obama, everyone. Give Americans the truth." Now, with Mark Meadows tweeting this out, this tells me that they're getting very, very close to releasing this information. Remember, what they're doing right now with all the tweets and everything that's coming out is getting everyone on the same page. Everyone's curious. What are you talking about? What do you mean there was spying? What do you mean that these people are involved? You have actual information? And people are starting to do their own research. People are starting to ask questions because, again, something doesn't make sense. And remember, they have things waiting in the wings, like Ted Cruz. He was spied on, and I believe there were others. So when they try to make the case that, oh, we were spying on Trump or surveilling Trump because of the Russian collusion and the Russian hacking, they're going to bring in the other people. And they're going to say, well, why were you spying on this judge? Why were you spying on Ted Cruz? Why were you spying on this individual? Everyone's dealing with the Russians? It doesn't make sense, and it will fall apart. Now, down at the border, the deep state, the Dems, they're very worried about what is happening. We know the wall is being built. Mexico is cooperating with the U.S. to stop migrants from coming in to this country illegally. Now, Trump put out the word that he's getting ready to go after those in this country that are illegal. And to stop all of this, because we know that the deep state wants the inadmissible migrants coming into this country, to stop what is happening right now and to call attention to all this and create a crisis or an event to make people say, oh, this is unbelievable, this shouldn't be allowed. We have AOC out there with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying that down at the border, there are concentration camps. She tweeted out the following: "This administration has established concentration camps on the southern border of the United States for immigrants, where they are being brutalized and dehumanizing conditions and dying. This is not hyperbole. It is the conclusion of expert analysis." Now, ever since she came out with this tweet, she's been digging her hole deeper and deeper. There are many individuals that lived through the concentration camps that are coming out now, and there are many other individuals coming out saying, no, these are not concentration camps. Actually, Dan Crenshaw came out with something very, very interesting in his tweet. "Clearly, I need to explain that in concentration camps, people are unjustly sought out and confined. This isn't what is happening at the border. Migrants are illegally crossing our border. Most are asylum seekers, thus pending trial. So your expert definition doesn't apply." And he continued, "Your comments reveal total disregard for our sovereignty and a deep ignorance that belittles the horrors of the Holocaust. If you're worried about conditions at the border, why don't you do something about it and support at Representative Mike Rogers' bill securing billions in humanitarian aid?" And you can see that people are hitting hard at AOC. Now, the reason why all of this is coming out is they're trying to stop what Trump is doing right now. Think about what he's done with Mexico. Now they're policing their side of the border and stopping people. The wall is going up. He's going after those individuals within the United States. The flow of inadmissibles coming into this country is slowing rapidly. What does the deep state need? They need these individuals to rig the election, the popular vote, and they're not going to get it. And this is going to be a problem. Now, we need to go back to post 3049. And in this post, it says, "If these fight to protect, safeguard, and promote all inadmissible immigrants as rightful U.S. citizens who should be afforded all benefits and rights accordingly, Why then would they fight to block them from being counted as part of the U.S. Census? What would the data show? What would the data show? It would show that we have a lot more illegals in here than we know about. And this brings me back to this new testimony that contradicts everything they're saying about the census question, that it is racist. So Democrats contend that the Trump administration proposed addition of citizenship question on the 2020 census is political and even asserted it is a right-wing conspiracy. However, newly released witness testimony from the House Oversight and Reform Committee contradicts those assertions. Committee ranking member Jim Jordan shared the minority's view that the Democrats were using the question to yet again obstruct the administration's agenda. The minority views highlight new witness testimony that directly rebutes Democrat conspiracy theories about the origins and purpose of the citizenship question. Democrats stated that Thomas Hofeller was behind a racial gerrymandering campaign and that the alleged right-wing conspiracy, James Uthmeyer, a former senior counsel at the DOC, who worked on the citizenship question directly with the U.S. Secretary of Commerce Wilbur Ross, testified that Hofeller had a zero role in alleged right-wing racial gerrymandering campaign. Uthmeyer didn't even know who Hofeller was and had never discussed the citizenship question with the White House. Here is the exchange with Uthmeyer. Mr. Uthmeyer, do you know who Thomas Hofeller is? Answer, I am familiar with the name, but I do not know this individual. No. Question, did you ever speak or communicate with him during the transition or any other time? Answer, I did not. Question, have you ever read anything or seen anything written by him? Answer, no. To my knowledge, no. I have never seen anything written by him. Question, have you ever discussed him with anyone? Answer, I discussed him with counsel in preparation for this interview. However, I had no other discussions. I was present for the deposition of Mark Newman, where I also would have heard the name mentioned. Question, are you familiar with his 2015 study or report? Answer, I am not. Other witnesses offered similar answers. Gene Hamilton, a senior administration official working on immigration issues at the Department of Justice, also had no idea who Hofeller was in the interview. Similarly, Chris Kobach, former Kansas Secretary of State, said, I don't agree with the assumption that when you count accurately the number of citizens, that necessarily helps one party or another. And it doesn't. You're getting a read on how many people are citizens and how many people aren't. There's nothing racist about it. Let me go to post 3071. D's prep to steal 2020 elections. Attack Fox News to control opposition narrative. 6 companies control 90% of the mainstream media. Vote to allow inadmissible immigrants right to vote in elections. Push talking points. RE voter age should be decreased from 18 to 16. No wall, open borders, all welcome, more D votes. Deny proper counting, U.S. Census, avoid public knowledge, real illegal population to avoid voter fraud, percent risk to elections. And then Q gave us, this is just a small list of things requiring ID but not considered racist. Purchasing alcohol, purchasing cigarettes, opening a bank account, apply for food stamps, apply for welfare, Medicaid, Social Security, job, mortgage, unemployment, drive a car, rent a car, buy a car, etc., etc., etc. Again, the only reason they're doing all of this is to stop what Trump and the Patriots are doing, because they will then lose the popular vote. This is what they use to win an election. And I do believe that voter ID is coming. I do believe DHS has been collecting a huge amount of data, and they're going to be pushing this very, very soon. Now, very interestingly, the jurors in the child trafficking and corruption trial of NXIVM cult leader Keith Rainier, they're set to begin deliberations at the Brooklyn Federal Court today, actually. And we're going to see how this all plays out. But very interestingly about all of this is that this is coming from Minor Stream Media. They tweeted out the following. NXIVM sex cult was operating 11 daycares worldwide in Albany, New York City, LA, London, Madrid, Guatemala City, Mexico City, 3 other Mexican cities, and Miami. So this was very, very big. Unbelievable. Now, we've been talking about big tech censorship for a while now. I mean, everyone has been noticing it. And it looks like Republican Senator Josh Hawley has introduced a bill aimed at stopping censorship on social media platforms based on political ideologies. It's called the Ending Support for Internet Censorship Act. It seeks to remove protection granted by Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act if platforms are not acting neutral in regards to political views. Currently, platforms cannot be held responsible for user-posted content as they are not considered publishers. As these companies become more political and take on editorial stance, many have called for these protections to be stripped. Now, Senator Hawley's bill would require platforms to follow the First Amendment when it comes to free and legal speech if they want to keep their liability waiver. With Section 230, tech companies get a sweetheart deal that no other industry enjoys: complete exemption from traditional publisher liability in exchange for providing a forum free of political censorship. Unfortunately and unsurprisingly, big tech has failed to hold up its end of the bargain, Hawley explained. The bill would only be aimed at platforms with 30 million monthly users or more than 500 million in global annual revenue. So small message boards and overly specific forums would not be affected. Facebook, Google, Twitter, and YouTube, they would be affected. And he went on to say, there's a growing list of evidence that shows big tech companies making editorial decisions to censor viewpoints they disagree with. Even worse, the entire process is shrouded in secrecy because these companies refuse to make their protocols public. This legislation simply states that if the tech giants want to keep their government-granted immunity, they must bring transparency and accountability to their editorial process and prove that they don't discriminate. Now, if his legislation is successful, tech giants will have to submit an audit every 2 years to prove to the Federal Trade Commission that they're acting neutrally. And of course, Google, Facebook lobbyists, they're all out there saying this is not right, this should not happen, and they're saying that the bill forces platforms to make an impossible choice: either host reprehensible but First Amendment protected speech or lose legal protections that allow them to moderate illegal content like human trafficking and violent extremism. Well, first of all, these are already against the law. Anything that calls for violence and tells people to go out and push violence, that's against the law. Anything that has to do with human trafficking, drugs, or anything like that, it's against the law. I mean, we already have laws on the books. I mean, if you go into a theater and you yell fire in the middle of a movie theater and there's no fire, people are going to run out and you're going to cause harm. It's against the law. But if there is a fire in the theater and you yell fire, you're allowed to do that because there is a fire. We already have laws on the books that already represent freedom of speech. So their argument doesn't make sense. Now, very interestingly, with Afghanistan, it seems like we're getting closer and closer to a deal. And the Taliban is announcing that the U.S. and the Taliban have agreed that U.S. is going to remove troops from Afghanistan. Now, of course, the U.S. spokesperson says, yes, we have the basic framework, but we haven't ironed out all the details. But I do believe that this is heading in the right direction, and I do believe the troops will be removed from Afghanistan. They'll also be removed from Syria. And remember, Trump is fighting those individuals still that want war in these areas, and he's trying to end all of these endless wars. Now, Trump said something very, very interesting in regards to Iran. He was asked about his position with Iran as he left the White House for his campaign rally in Florida yesterday. And he says, we're looking at Iran. We have a lot of things going on with Iran. We're very prepared for Iran, and we'll see what happens. Now, that's very interesting, that we're prepared for Iran. We're prepared for them to make a deal. And he always says, we'll see what happens. He already knows what's going to happen. Because behind the scenes, behind all of this that's going on, the deal is already being done. And remember, all those players like Obama, Kerry, the European leaders, they all have skin in the game. I believe they profited from all of this. And I'm sure there are other things that we know of that have been going on. And that's why they're out there trying to keep this all together. But it looks like it's falling apart. And it looks like the people of Iran, they're going to be fighting back against those deep state operatives inside of Iran. And we know that the black site, it has been dismantled in Iran. Now, the reporters also asked Trump about these the additional 1,000 troops that are going to the Middle East. And once again, this doesn't mean there's going to be an invasion. First of all, 1,000 troops, it's not enough for an invasion. I believe these troops are going out there because we have a lot of deep state operatives around the entire Middle East area. And these troops are being used to capture these individuals and to bring them in. Remember what has been going on in the Middle East, in Libya, Lebanon, Syria, the whole area. I believe they're using these troops to control these different black sites and what has been going on in the Middle East. Remember, Trump's mission here is to end all of this, and that is exactly what we are seeing. The plan is working. You can see everything is building up, and the deep state, they have nothing at this point. And we're going to hear more and more of this information come out. They're going to continually drip feed until eventually, boom, the D-class comes out. And this is when the fireworks really start. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.